What's going on, guys? I'm Thaddeus McNeil. I teach people how to tell their stories so they can change lives. But the most important story that you can tell more oftentimes than not is the story you tell yourself. And today we're going to talk about the story you tell yourself about who you are outside of your accolades, outside of your accomplishments, outside of the degrees and everything that you've accomplished. This is so important because I have faced this problem before. And for years, I struggled with identifying who I truly was and what I really felt and how I really thought, all these things separate from what I did. I've been in the military for over 24 years. And with that said, it was hard to separate myself in stages from my rank and my titles and all those other things. Not everywhere, but sometimes. And I understand that if I feel this way, I can't be the only one. So we're going to talk about what it looks like when you lose all these things, just trying to find out who you are. So let's jump right into it, right? So let's talk about the man behind the medal. Who are you when the titles fall silent and the only voice left is the one you've been telling yourself? Again, the stories that you tell yourself are the most important stories. All right, let's now move forward. All right, if they took away your title, if they took away your uniform, if they took away the applause, if they took away the degrees, if they took away the titles, the accomplishments, who are you? Would you still know who you are? Would you be able to identify yourself outside of what you do? Victor Frankl, a famous author, said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." The reason that's important is because you got to understand who Victor Frankl is. He lived through an internment camp while maintaining a mindset that he could still accomplish things in that most depressing state because he recognized that where he was is not who he was. And I need you to understand those same principles, that where you are and what you do is not necessarily who you are. It may be a part of you, but it is not necessarily define you. Like I said, I'm Thaddeus McNeil. I've done 25 years in the military, over 25 years in the military. I know that says retired, but I'm not retired yet. I'm currently a major, hopefully picking up lieutenant colonel soon. With that said, I've got a few accolades under my belt. Here they are. Here's what I want you to focus on, though. When I wore rank, when I carried medals, I was playing a part the entire time. I was doing a job, but that job did not necessarily mean that's who I was. And in the military, a lot of times you can run across officers or higher ranked or enlisted. Shoot, it really don't matter what rank, but you can come across people quite often who define themselves solely by what they do in the military. I am a commander. I am a general. I am a captain. I am a sergeant, a sergeant major. I am a first sergeant, whatever that is. I'm a business owner as well. And I've ran across people who identify themselves only as business owners. The hard part about all these things, stripped all those things away, there's an underneath layer, and that underneath layer must be understood if you are going to live the most fulfilling life you can, because all these things can be taken away from you. If this is everything that I've built, why don't I feel like enough? Because I had to ask myself that question several times while I was in the military. I would get to certain ranks, I've achieved certain things, I get an award or something like that, and I always felt like it just really didn't fulfill me. It's because I was defining myself with these shallow terms. And so let's move forward, right? I need you to understand like that sometimes men get lost in the wilderness. And it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's that you get lost chasing things. You're in a your whole thing is acquiring and building a trophy case. Let's talk about some of the traps that people can fall into. That first trap of performance. I am what I produce. If I'm not performing, I disappear. The hard part about that is in our society, we are so trained to think that if we are not producing as men, we don't have any value. And yes, we do want to produce. Yes, we do want to provide. Yes, we do want to be of some use and value to our community and to our families. But what if you can't produce? What if you have seasons where you're trying to produce and it's not producing? It doesn't mean that you don't have value. It's not an identity marker. It's not who you are. Okay. The second trap, a position. I am what I'm called. When the title leaves, so do I. So what happens if the business shuts down? You have a title. Are you no longer of value? What I try to get you to understand is these things are traps. You can't necessarily focus on the performance or your position or praise. That's another trap. When people constantly applaud you and all of a sudden they don't anymore, that silence feels like rejection, and it's not necessarily true. I need you to understand, if being an athlete or somebody who was in charge or someone who had a lot of pull at one point now no longer has that, it doesn't diminish who that person is. But if that's how that person defines themselves, they can they can end up in a world where they're empty because this is the only thing they had to give themselves validation. I want to zoom out when I talk about this real quick. So here's what I need you to understand, that the most dangerous story that you'll ever tell is the one you're telling yourself in silence. Many times we hear voices in our heads that tell us we're not enough, that we're not accomplishing enough, that we're not achieving enough. But the truth is, you have to be able to tell yourself the correct story about who you are and who you want to be. And it's difficult because we're so trained to not pay attention to it. We're so trained to stay locked in on our job, locked in on the career, locked in on the titles and acquiring more and more and more. But the truth of the matter is, our being is more important than acquiring, than what we're doing. We have to understand who we are. We're going to walk through working on how to figure those things out. All right. So this next clip, I need you to understand that you have an inner critic in your mind. All right. And that joker can mess you up. I've heard these things before. That's why I put them here. You're only as good as your last win. What are you currently accomplished? You know what I'm saying? So it keeps you striving and focusing on the next thing, not enjoying where you are in the moment. If they really knew who you were, they'd leave you. For example, that's a portion of imposter syndrome, or you understanding that, or people thinking, you really thinking that you have some type of hidden problem within you that is so ugly or distasteful that if people knew about it, they wouldn't fool with you. And it's not necessarily true, but it's a voice sometimes that is the accuser. What I mean is the accuser that causes you to see yourself with insecurity, and that's not necessarily who you are. So slow down, and you'll be forgotten. That thing that says like you'll be passed by or competition will eat you. What it means is you'll never be able to rest. You'll never be able to rest because there's always another mountain to climb. There's always somebody chasing you. Your work is never enough. None of these things are true. Here's the true voice that you need to be paying attention to. My worth is not on a scoreboard. You're not being judged by anybody else. Although other people may try to judge you, the measure of who you are is determined by you and sometimes your family. I am more than my output. There are seasons you're going to put out more than you do in other seasons. And you're not measured by what you produce. You're a human being, not a human doing. The rest does not erase me. You are a person. You have to rest. In order to recharge yourself, in order to enjoy your position, in order to not be overwhelmed, you're going to have to rest from time to time. There's nothing wrong with rest. So for me, the data uniform came off. So um, I'm currently in the National Guard, but I've been active duty. And I've been active duty in several stints. Former Marine, done years active duty with Marine Corps. I've done some reserve time with Marine Corps, active duty time with the Army, National Guard time as well. When I take off the uniform, I am still a father. I'm still a husband. I'm still me. And the uniform does not define me. I do the best I can to remember that I am here as an act of service, and I am not a person that wants to use my ranking or my status to hurt, lord over, or belittle anybody. I'm a person too, and I want to treat the people around me like they're people as well. And after 24 years of service, um, I realized that at some point, um, in the quietness of my heart, there's something that I never allowed myself to say out loud. I had no idea who Thaddeus was without the rank in front of me. Now, this is some years ago, okay? Meaning I never got a chance to sit and enjoy myself. I never really figured out what I liked. I never really figured out what my preferences were, my dislikes, and I walked somewhat in people pleasing and all these different things. But when I got a chance to really figure out what I like, I was able to separate myself from all of these things and walk in a more fulfilling life. Here's the thing that changed for me, and this is why I want to share with you guys. Now, I spent 2 decades being called a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, and somewhere along that way, I traded who I was for what I was called. That was then, but now here's what changed. Okay, that night I sat down and I asked myself a question I should have asked maybe 18 years ago. Who am I underneath all of this? Who are you underneath all of what you do on a daily basis? All the people you support, all your responsibilities. Who are you? All right. You can't out achieve an identity question because the things you achieve aren't necessarily you. The next promotion won't answer it. The next milestone won't quiet it. And the next title won't replace what you've yet defined for yourself. But you haven't yet defined for yourself. It's the truth. All right, let's talk about the method that we can come up with, that I've come up with to help you understand who you really are. This framework is what I've used for the last years when I teach, overcoming your lack of understanding who you are. This framework is something I came up with after reading several books. I kind of put all these things together to help people understand and articulate how you are more than the thing that you do. So let's talk about it. It's just the mirror method. Just what I came up with. 6 steps to understand who you are underneath the resume, beyond the titles, beneath all the trophies and accolades. So mirror first, look honestly at who you are. I identify, name the false story, the stories that you're telling yourself that aren't true about who you are. We're going to talk about the rejection, refuse the lie. We're going to talk about how you rewrite this, you reframe this as a new author or author of your new story. Then you're going to own it. You're going to live out loud. Once you own it, you are going to now embody this new framework or this new story for yourself. Then you're going to repeat it and you're going to make it a daily practice. This is something that's going to change your life if you can implement it in the way we're talking about. Knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom, Aristotle. All right. So the Bible says, with all that getting, get understanding. Okay. Here, one of the things that you want to get is the understanding of self as well. All right, let's move forward. All right, let's talk about this M. This M, mirror, looking honestly at who you are. Stop performing for the room. Look at the man in the glass. I was a people pleaser, chronic people pleaser. I was so aware of everybody's emotions and what was going on around me. Every time someone would talk, I would hear the subtitles to what they were trying to say, preparing to emotionally comfort or deal with them in the ways they weren't even sharing with me. Okay? Because I didn't know who I was and I was so accustomed from different traumas to taking care of people when they didn't require it or request it. When no one is watching, who am I? When I'm trying, who am I trying to convince? Worth sitting with. The first and best victory is to conquer self. What this requires is for you to sit with yourself for a while and ask yourself, who are you? What do you like? How do you identify yourself? How do you figure out who you are, what you like, what you do? Pause this real quick. All right, we're back. Now, with that said, here's what I need you to do. Take some time to yourself. It's hard. You got responsibilities. You got the kids, they're at school, you got your wife, you got work, you got all these things. You're going to have to start setting aside some time so you can spend with yourself, so you can figure it out. Let's get to the next. Let's get to this next letter. I. Let's identify. Name the false story. Name the thing that's not real. Okay. For me, that false story was I'm not much more than what I do. Every man is carrying the script he didn't audition for. Okay. When false stories come, where false stories come from, fathers, what is said over you, influential others or people you really care about saying things or infecting you with thoughts and words, or the silence that words should have been. I didn't grow up with a dad, so I know there was moments where I was desperate to hear, I'm proud of you. Here's the way to go. Even discipline and instruction, just guidance. As a man, this is something you want. As a woman, you would want it too, or just as a child, you would want this in your life. So influential others speaking into your life or not speaking into your life can have a huge effect, or have huge effect on how you see yourself. Next, failure. The verdict you hand yourself the day you fall short. I fell short many times, and I would beat myself up over and over and over, rehearsing what I could have did differently, rehearsing how I could have changed the outcome, rehearsing what was going on with my thinking and all the things that I could have changed. But then holding on to the failure. Here's the thing: God did not come to condemn us. Stop condemning yourself. You spend more time beating yourself up, and you call it being accountable. You call it being tough on yourself. However, what you're really doing is destroying your confidence little by little, voice by voice, every time you don't allow yourself to overcome some type of failure. That is not how God created you. You are not supposed to be sitting in guilt and shame. This is what He came to take. Failure is not something that defines you. It's something you're supposed to learn from. It's not a definer. Next, friends, the crowd whose approval you mistook for confirmation. There's times that we feel like we're doing good because nobody's telling us we're doing bad. And that's the truth. Sometimes we get around, yes, crowds, we get around people patting us on our back, telling us we're doing great. I was in a situation once in the military where I really wanted to advance in my career. And I was asking the people around me, what do I have to do? Some people who were some ranks ahead of me, and they was patting me on my back and telling me, hey, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. Here's the thing. If I had listened to what they were saying, I would have never got to where I was now, because their guidance never got me to where I wanted to go. I can't necessarily listen to the crowd for approval. The crowd changes. Okay? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Okay? You have to understand that you have a voice that's playing in your head, and you have to now replace that voice with something different. Let's talk about how we do that. All right, let's move forward. All right, reject, refuse to lie. Awareness without rejection is just polite agreement with your own prison. Every time I read this, ooh, it hits me hard. Awareness without rejection is polite agreement with your own prison. Here's the lie that you're telling yourself. Here's the incorrect story you're sharing with yourself. I'm only valuable when I'm winning. If I rest, I will be replaced. Let me zoom out and I need you to see me and me only when I tell you this. Listen, okay? Listen to this. You are so much more than winning. In our society, we value winners. We value people doing. You are so much more than that. And if only what you see is your wins as your value. You will always hold yourself in low esteem because you can only win so much. If I rest, I'll be replaced. Everybody needs rest. You're going to run yourself into an early grave trying to achieve. You're going to run yourself into an early grave trying to achieve. Take time, enjoy what's going on around you, rest. Okay? All right. Here's the fix for that. That voice is not the truth about me. I will not agree with it today. Okay? You have to tell you something different. Tell yourself something different. You have to reject that voice. It's called the conscious interrupt. When the voice comes, you have to interrupt. You have to reject the voice. Now, that's easier said than done, but it's something that has to be practiced. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. When the space is our power to choose, here's what I need you to understand. You get to choose your thoughts. Now, when the thoughts show up, sometimes that you don't necessarily choose, you cannot allow them to linger. You're going to have to take action, move forward, grab the thoughts, and ensure, listen to what I'm saying, ensure that the thoughts do not go unrejected. You're going to have to spend time actively going, this is not going to work for me. Then saying the thing that you want to see, saying the thing you want to see. In this situation, if a person is saying, well, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's jump into the next one. All right, rewrite. You can't reject a lie and stand on nothing. You must replace it. So see it like this. If there's a pillar that's holding up a building or a brick, if I remove that brick, okay, whatever that brick is or whatever that pillar is, it it leaves a gap or a space where it's an uneven balance and things can tumble. What happens is if you're going to build a stronger foundation, you have to replace that brick or that pillar that you pull away. So here's what you do. The truths a whole man stands on, okay? You are worthy before you win. You are worthy before you win. You know why? Because a God died for you. You are worthy. You are a person. You're worthy. Every person has worth and value. You have to believe that. That must become a faith confession. You have worth and value. You are whole without the title. Titles do not define you. You didn't come into this world with a title other than son or daughter. Next, you're capable beyond the resume. There's things that you can do that's not necessarily on your resume. Your resume does not wholly define you. Next, you are enough before the next yes. You're going to receive no's. It does not mean you had a lack of value. Okay? It just means it wasn't for you. And it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. That has to be the mindset. The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. You don't understand more oftentimes than not that just who you are is enough for whatever the situation is. Okay? There's so much value in you. Not because you can do a thing, just because you be, because you are, because you exist. Okay? You have value just because you exist. Now, I need you to identity that stays in your head won't change your house, your hustle, or your habit. Okay? Ownership means you change three things: your inner dialogue, your daily decisions, your closest circle. Take to yourself the way a great coach would. Talk to yourself. I said take. Talk to yourself the way a great coach would. This is something I practice daily. I have daily affirmations on certain things. Whatever I put my hands to do prosper. The blessing of the Lord is running me down and overtake me. There's nothing I can't do. I'm at the right place at the right time for God's best blessings. I am capable more than most. There's so many things that I say to myself on a daily basis to remind myself, almost as coaching myself, that there's nothing I can't do and who I am is good enough. Who I am will get the job done. You have to do the same thing. Your next thing, number 2, that daily decision. Stop saying yes from a place of striving. Ooh, I can talk about this. You're always seeing a lack of resources. You're always seeing yourself from a lack of not being enough. You have to see your life from a place of abundance, a place where you are enough, a place where you can get the job done, a place where you have an attitude that's gratitude for who you totally are. Okay. If you're always coming from a place where you're not enough, you'll always be striving to become more. That's not how it works. You have to know that you are enough in the moment. To do this is to always live as though you can and you are enough. All right, next, your closest circle. Be in rooms where the real you is welcome. The hardest part sometimes about being in the military and being in corporate America or anywhere else is me as an African American is code switching. Always having to be something I'm not necessarily. And there's aspects of it where I'm not necessarily pretending. However, I feel like more oftentimes than not, I am. And so as I step away from spending more time in the military and contemplate retiring, and I'm doing more speaking and I'm doing more trainings, I'm doing more talks, I get a chance to be who I really am. And being able to do so is freeing. I need you to put yourself in an environment where you can be free to be who you are, whether that's friends, whether that's family, be in environments that stretch you. But also, you need to be environments that welcome you to be who you are, environments that are always constraining you to be something you're not, constrict you from growth. And as long as you're there, your growth will always be stunted and you will always have a hard time finding your footing. Find a place where you can grow, find a circle that accepts you. All right, we're gonna talk about R, repeat. Make it a daily practice. This is something that you got to do over and over for it to stick, for it to land. The lie was rehearsed for years. The truth needs to have the same discipline. In the same manner, a person may take forever or will take years and years and years to put on weight. It's going to take maybe years to get the weight off. It's the same concept. It takes some time to do. It takes some time to undo. Here's what you need to say as your daily morning rhythm in the morning, or your daily rhythm in the morning. Speak one truth about who you are out loud before you jump on your daggum phone, before you check your emails, okay? I say I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There's nothing I can't do. Whatever I put my hands to do will prosper. Not, I think, will. With certainty speak. The next, your midday, catch one lie, reject it, and replace it. Throughout the day, because it happens over and over, there's something that's going to pop in your head that's not true, or it's a thought, because this is something that habitually comes to you. It's not necessarily from you, it's from your past, but you may not call that thought to you. However, it is your responsibility to replace it and reject it. Use the things that we told you earlier. Replace it and reject it, or reject it and replace it. In the evening, acknowledge one moment you walked in your real name. It is good before you go to bed to think about some of your wins. One of the things that you can do is lay in the bed, you lay down and think about, hey, I got a chance to be me today. I got a chance to do this. I got a chance to say this. I said what I really felt or thought today. And if that's the steps that you need to take, then that's what you need to do. This is something that I do. I'm just doing the things that I tell you I do. I'm telling you about the things that I do. Okay. All right. So from the mirror to the message, when you finally see who you are, you stop hiding, and the very story the world is waiting on begins to emerge for you. You identify who you are when the titles fall silent. You tell yourself a new story, that signature story that only that you can tell. All right. And we'll talk about what the stories look like in a different video. Then we'll talk about the influence, the message that moves other men forward. All right. Because what happens is, as you learn who you are, there's other men around you that don't have this freedom. It's like being in the Matrix. If you ever seen the movie The Matrix, that one person would free one person, and then they realize that there's thousands of other people that they have to go back and free. You have the opportunity to do the same thing with your story. Your story is going to offer somebody else liberation, but you have to discover that story for yourself, so you can offer it to someone else so they can find that same liberation. The men you become in private becomes the message that you carry in public. You have to develop yourself in a private setting first before you can put it on public display. Somewhere a son, a brother, a friend is waiting on the version of you that's hiding behind your accolades. I need you to understand and speak these things. I will stop letting my titles speak louder than my truth. You are more than whatever your title is. I will tell the story that's mine, not one I edited for the room. Your story is going to be messy. It's not going to be pretty sometimes. It's not going to be well put together, but it's you. And that authenticity is what will attract people to you. I will become a man whose private identity can carry his public influence. You don't want to be one person privately and a different person publicly. You want that private life to emerge as who you really are in public so you can be authentic. There's the value, just being yourself, because yourself is like nobody else, and it's what people are looking for right now, which is the real. All right, so with that said, guys, I am done here. These are stories that sell. There's a course that turns the man behind the medal into the message your audience pays for. If you want to understand your signature story, I have a 5-part framework that teaches you to monetize your path. You'll find that one story that you can tell for yourself. Now, whether you're a content creator, whether you're a speaker, whether you're a coach, whether you're a mentor or a leader, this framework is going to help you figure out that story for yourself. This is called your signature story. Now, what that means is once you figure out that signature story for yourself, you're going to be able to monetize it in several different ways. Like I said, whether you're coaching, speaking, leading, or even producing a digital product, this can turn into something that you can monetize. So here's what I need you to understand. There's a link in the bio, okay? It's going to lead you to that 5-part framework, all right? It's a 5-day mini course that's going to be able to teach you how to figure out and help you understand your identity so you can tell your story in the most authentic manner. All right? Now, like I said, you'll be able to monetize that story depending on how you use it. And I want to thank you guys for joining me and being on here. Hey, give me comments. Tell me some of the things that you thought, anything that resonated with you, anything else that you like to talk about. I've got a world of experience, and this was just one of the things that I struggled with. So I wanted to share with you guys as I do this as a teaching sometimes. I've taught this before, and I just want to help you guys understand who you are and that you're so much more than your title. You're so much more than your accolades. You're so much more than the things that people tell you you are. You are a human being who's enough. Who's enough. You may not believe that, but it's true. You are more than enough. The world will never run out of medals to give you, but the world is waiting on the man, not the moment. They just want you to be authentic. They just want you to be you. With that said, hey, I'm Thaddeus McNeil. Remember that the goal is growth. Growth happens in the journey. Hey, my 5-day mini course, the link is in the bio. It's underneath. Get this information. It's going to transform how you're able to tell your story. Who knows? You may be able to transform somebody else's life. To the next episode.